Hi, I'm Dan from Pay Down Debt Solutions. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to actually look at, this is a redo. This is a couple, we helped them, I think it was yesterday actually. No, maybe it was 2 days ago. And none of us made a mistake. Excel made a mistake, believe it or not, but it wasn't inherently Excel. He had a different version of Microsoft Excel than I was using. And something got changed in translation and it changed his total income and his total expenses, actually double added some of the numbers. And so this is actually for them. Once I'm done with the video, we'll send a message to them to let them know, hey, today's video's got your example in it. So you can see here their total income, $5,831. Their total expenses, $5,902. They're just a little bit upside down, but they're in a good position. They've got 4 credit cards, Citi, Amex, Wells Fargo, and a Signify, but they got that HELOC in there with plenty of room. I didn't write it on there, but the HELOC limit is $40,000. So I consider it an enviable position. Just overusing a credit card, nothing major. It's just 2 less steps each time they have to pay a bill or when they're managing their week-to-week finances. But it's not insurmountable. Just in case it's the first time you're seeing this is your first introduction to velocity banking, not by any means. You can just as easily do a credit card. It just has an extra step over using the convenience of a HELOC or a personal line of credit, something like that. And then they've also got a Green Sky loan. Their mortgage, this is a newer home for them. They've only been there a year. And then they've got a student loan. The student loan is in an income-based plan. So that $300,000 student loan, they're only paying $85 a month on it right now. And I think they said once a year it gets reevaluated. This is a new, there's so many programs out there. This is a newer program I haven't heard of. I've heard of the income-based, but then it just steadily goes up over the life of the student loan. This one, they just reevaluate each year just to double check because it's always based on the income. So I wrote it here so you guys could see the bigger picture. But in reality, we're not going to touch that student loan. $85 a month on a $300,000 student loan, it's the next best thing to free money. You know $85 isn't covering the interest. It's not covering anything. They got a program there that there's no reason to touch that. No reason to mess with it whatsoever. So let's take a look. Most of the time, if you have a HELOC, I shouldn't say most of the time, I've yet to pick something other than a HELOC to use, except in a few rare instances where the balance on the HELOC wasn't high enough to put all their monthly bills and help them pay down other debts. But it's a rarity. So for them, their HELOC is their debt destroyer. Right. And I already got the information up there. It's got a $40,000 limit and an 8%. Now here, even for such I call it a straightforward example. It means I didn't have to do days of calculations. It was the usual four hours of calculations because I always do it and I double check. And also I'll go down some roads and I'm like, I don't like where this is going. I think maybe we could save something doing else or doing it a different way, doing something else with their strategy. And I tried it and I'll share it later when it becomes relevant in the video, but it didn't. I was shocked. I thought I got a sinking pit in my stomach. Like, I think I did the last 2 or 3 people's cases wrong. Because I've been doing them all I always did. And that's just because it's how you've always done something. It's not a good reason to keep doing it. You should always, anything in your life, you should always be double checking things along the way because situations change. So where to start? You guys, some of you might see it. If you guys are good with dollars and amounts, you might already see it. But if you added up all these debts, they're $40,444. So that means with their first move, they can do their own consolidate. Basically, they're borrowing money from themselves, from their home, to do their own debt consolidation loan. For the balances work out perfectly. Now, they do have a little bit of cash saved. They could pay that $444, but they don't want to go right to the 40. They don't want to keep it at the limit at 40,000 and keep bouncing right underneath it. They want a little cushion. So we changed the 40,000 to say 38,000 is where we want to stay. We want to keep our balance as we pay off. Oh, I'm sorry. We're paying it all in a lump sum at once, but then we're going to help them with the Green Sky, and then we're going to help them with the mortgage. So as we're making lump sum payments, they want to keep it under 38,000 just in case they need cash for something, that happens in life. So what we do is we take that 38,000, right? And now their first question was, well, which one should we not fully pay off? The easiest answer is the lowest interest, right? You're not, and also in this example is, say this is 5 credit cards. If you got a lower interest credit card, don't just think, well, hey, I'm covering all my payments. Think, why am I leaving this $7,000 at 24.49%? If you have the room, and let's just say it's a credit card with $38,000 limit for argument's sake, don't leave that at 24.49% with you just making payments. Do your own consolidation with your credit cards by, balance transfer, a cash advance, maybe something through PayPal, because obviously you can't pay a credit card with a credit card, and move that. If all you're paying is the minimum, move that balance to that lower percentage. So if you're still paying your bills, you'll still be able to pay your bill, but at least you'll be accruing less interest every month. Even if you don't do velocity banking, you're helping yourself out. You're saving yourself interest. Don't just because you're making all those payments, don't ever look at your debt entirely as one debt or entirely as individual. You got to look at, well, where can I consolidate? Where does it make sense? Where would I save money if I move my own money? Because something is, just look at it. Take that 24.49%, take it to 8%. Take that 29%, take it to 8%. How fast you're already saving yourself money. By simply moving money, you're saving yourself money. That's also a good step into velocity banking because it's how you manage your money that's going to save you money. But let's get into it. So we take it at 38,000. Let me get my sheet right here. So the first step they're going to do is they're going to pay off. They're going to pay off the Signify, the Wells Fargo, the Amex, and then they're going to pay $4,000. What was it? $517 of that city, giving a new balance $2,000. I believe it was 444. Yep, 2,444. Right? So we paid all that off. So what? With the HELOC, we don't have to look at available income and chargeable expenses, non-chargeables. They can put their entire paychecks as they come in, and then they just simply take that money out of the HELOC back to their checking account to pay each bill as it comes due. So leaving that money in your checking account every month doesn't help you in any way. The bank's not paying you any interest on it. By parking it on your HELOC, it's saving you interest each month. Same with a credit card. If you're using a credit card as your debt destroyer, by being able to put your available income, and if you can watch another video, I won't get into every definition, it'll just muddy the waters on what I'm explaining here. But you put your available income, then you just charge your chargeable expenses as they come due, just to reduce that interest by as much as you possibly can. So it's not compounding on itself annually, essentially, because it's flat interest. It's not compounding interest, but it's still, once you reach that new balance next year, it's going to start building and building and building and building, just not compounding. I got my terms backwards. Sorry about that. All right, so we pay it. That's the first thing we do. So what's it do? It takes our debt destroyer balance to $38,000. That was our target. But more importantly, by cutting out all these payments, that 168, the 120, the 41, the 300, of course the 529, we say satisfied. For those of you new to velocity banking, and that's usually the term that messes people up the most. Because if you understand accounting, you understand what it means. You kind of don't get lost in the verbiage. But if you're learning, verbiage is everything. That's how you learn. First, you learn the meaning of the words, how they work, and then you understand the whole system. So what that means is normally you have your checking account here, and over here is a bill you have to pay. So if you got a $500 bill, you got to send $500 out. So if you start with $2,000, and you send $500, right, to pay that bill, you got $1,500 left in your account. Right? There's that $500 payment. The reason we no longer subtract it out is because you're not sending $500. Just for reference, checking HELOC. You're just putting the whole $2,000. So there is no minus $500 for the payment. The payment was $500. You put $2,000 on it. Payment. That's why we say satisfied. You satisfied the payment. And of course, then with the interest, you save on interest because you just lowered the average daily balance, and you're only going to pull money back as you have bills due. So you're maximizing your interest savings. Right, so let's get in. So that's it. The total expenses dropped by all of that except the remaining payment. Because this is a redo, I didn't get new details on the credit cards. I just took principal plus 1%. So at $2,440 at principal plus 1%, is $74 a month. Right? So our total expenses dropped. This whole sum, I believe, is $1,158, but minus the 74 because we still got some minimum payments there. We'll just jump, so it's minus 1,084. We'll just jump to your total expenses are 4,818. So what they're going to do is their paychecks come in, they're putting them right, they go into their checking account, transfer them to the HELOC, they sit on the HELOC. As each of these bills combined come due, the total of 4,818, they take them out of their HELOC back to their checking, pay it however they normally do. Right? Auto debit, account debit, auto pay is what I meant to say, account debit, mail in a check, let that money sit in that HELOC because it's cutting down your average daily balance. So what we get into is at 3 months, call it step number 2, at 3 months, they pay off that Citibank. They pay off the remaining balance. Pay off the Citibank card, the balance with just that minimum going on it for those 3 months, dropped to $2,730. And it raises the new debt destroyer balance is $38,018 because we're putting that $2,730 back on it. We're not back on it, but bringing that over to it by paying it off, obviously. Right? But now that drops our total expenses again. That $74 payment, because now that's gone. So now Citi's gone. And that's going to drop 74. Got a little dog ear on it. To $4,744. And now here's where I give the example of sometimes I go on one road, I check a different road. So the first strategy I started with them was I looked at, because they're only a year in to their mortgage, so it's super heavy on interest. We always tell you guys, one of the reasons we say always align, never alone, it's two-sided. One is they're front-end loaded on interest. And the second, of course, is you got a $100,000 loan, you pay $10,000 on it, you can't get that. Now you got $90,000 left on your loan. You can't touch that $10,000. It's gone. You got a $100,000 line of credit, whether it's this or a credit card, you pay $10,000, you still have $10,000 of purchasing. It's a $100,000 credit card balance and you paid $10,000, you got a $90,000 balance, you got $10,000 of purchasing power if something happens in life, right? And something's always happening. That's why we all say that's life, right? The unexpected is always happening. That's not paid off, but the payment's gone. That's why I didn't want to leave any confusion for there. So you can see we're down. We paid that city off after just 3 months. So now they've done their consolidation. They took all these down, this 24.49, 27.24, this 229 to 8%. So just that move, if they did nothing else, they're already saving themselves interest. I didn't go through and calculate, sorry, no extra little details on that one. But so where do we go? So it takes about a year. These are just the remaining payments just to make room. They're relevant in my calculations. They're not relevant for you guys watching. Right? So at 15 months, so 1 year after paying off that city, they can pay the green sky off. Now this, before I went my little tangent, is what I was talking about, I went down 2 roads. Green sky balance is $12,766 at that point. So originally, I looked at going right at their mortgage. So I have a debt destroyer program that a coder created for me, and I can plug all these numbers in. And I can't plug everything into it, but I can plug, based on their income, their expenses, and their balance, how long them doing the pay down strategy, how long and how much interest on that debt destroyer will it cost them to pay off that debt. So first I went right for the mortgage because they're only 12 months into it, very front end loaded in interest. And I go through a couple iterations, every 9 months they do another $10,000 chunk, and I got into, I'm like, all right, well, wait a minute. So real fast to go back to the first iteration of the mortgage, I go, what if I had extra, $193 in available income, meaning I lower those total expenses $193. They're coming on to, having to come out of the HELOC and be paid every month. And this, because of the number of times, I believe it was 13 $10,000 chunks. because obviously you chunk, then you got to do pay down 9 months, like I alluded to a minute ago. 9 months is going to cost you a certain amount of interest, but it's going to save you interest on your mortgage. And the savings, especially when you multiply by 13, outpaced that, because it really just be that one-time payment. If you ignored this and just kept attacking the mortgage, you come out almost, I think it was almost 3,000. It was 3,049, if I remember right, ahead of doing the green sky. Sorry, the number. I've worked this same. There's actually a third way I did that I don't even have to bring up because it's not relevant to us. It was just something I wanted to try just to see if I could massage something, see if I could squeeze out some more savings. But it made more sense. Pay off that green sky, drop those total expenses, so those charges that they're paying every month, by that 193. And it takes to 4,551. Because putting all your money into the line of credit or on your credit card, whatever your debt destroyer is, cuts down on your interest. Cutting down your interest contributes to paying your principal down faster, right? If you're putting $2,000 a month on a credit card, charging $1,500 a month, you're like, well, I'm paying it down by $500 a month. You are. But by putting the money on and versus when the payments come out, you're reducing your interest, but you're still putting the same $2,000 on it. So that means every dollar of interest you save is another dollar paying down your principal. So you basically took their interest, always growing on you and increasing your balance like you're never getting ahead, and you flipped it to where it's going down and increasing the principal you're paying off. So that extra 193, that 4,000, see how much bigger that is now? Total expenses of 5,902. Sorry, total income 5,831 to 4,551. We have over a $1,300. I didn't write it down. Sorry about that. I didn't write the exact number down. I'm not going to grab the calculator. It's more that you guys know it. The exact number is not relevant to me because I've already prepared all my calculations. Right? So in 15 months, we consolidated all their loans. We consolidated all their lines of credit into that HELOC. We paid off one loan. Now, if they were to keep doing this, it'd be about 30 years to pay essentially that $38,000 because we reset it. We paid off the final city. I said it without writing it. It reset the debt destroyer to $38,018. Right? And then we do it again here. Step 3 at 15 months. It bringing that 12,000 over, reset the debt destroyer to 37,384. Now, if they just worked the pay down strategy, it was around 29, 30 months. They'd have that down to zero. But they also want to get rid of their mortgage. Now, this, I said I wasn't going to mention it, but it becomes more relevant the deeper I get into this example. I did their full mortgage payoff 2 different ways. One way I did it, well, the way I did it that we're not going to actually show you here was, let me see, I saved it so I had it, was doing that, paying this balance down to zero, and then starting $10,000 chunks on the mortgage. And that was the pit of the feeling, the bad feeling I had in the pit of my stomach, because I was like, maybe I've been doing this the same way for too long. Maybe I better basically keep myself honest. Make sure I'm not getting lazy. Even though, trust me, when you guys, some of you will do this on your own, by yourself. You can't be lazy and do it. It's tedious, time consuming. I just simply enjoy that sort of stuff with math. Partially, I've been doing my whole life, and I don't know, I just enjoy it. No sense asking now. I'm 48 years old. Why I like things is irrelevant to me. I just like what I like at this point. So I looked at that versus how I normally do it. As soon as this 37,384 drops down to 28, so I can put another $10,000 chunk on the mortgage, bring it to 38, because that's our goal. They want to keep it below 38,000. And one versus the other, and the difference was dramatic. I'll just share the numbers in a second with you when I get to them. But yeah, the difference was 5/8. So what's that? 62% difference. You saved 62% more money, not simply carrying this out for 32 more months. 32 more months, so that was zero before chunking. And the reason being, this will apply to most people, not necessarily every situation. It's because they're so early in their mortgage. I erased it, but the 348 months is 29 years left. I have a 30-year mortgage. there's so much front end interest loading. The faster they can start putting $10,000 chunks on, the greater the savings than the carrying cost. So what I was thinking was, well, hey, if it's just 32 months, that means at 47 months, this is zero. So now the balance is going from 0 to 10,000 every 9 months. Every 9 months, you put $10,000 chunk on the mortgage, takes you 9 months to pay it to zero, and you go. When you're at 37, you're only going down to 28. Well, 38 to 28. This is just right now 37. When you're going to 20, you're carrying 28,000 minimum all the time, and you're just putting the 5,831 income on it to lower the balance, save on interest. And the interest numbers they just seem so big to me. Like every 9-10 months, it was almost $2,000 in interest on the debt destroyer, working at 8% even, working it down. So I'm like, I've got to double check. Doesn't matter how many times I do this, I'm double checking again. And I go through it, and it was staggering the difference. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's just because, it's not just because, but it's partially because doing that first, like we're at 15 months here. At 24 months, it's going to be the first $10,000 chunk on the mortgage. This is the plan, because this is the plan that saves the most interest. The other way, it's 47 months, right? 15 months, takes 32 months to bring that HELOC, the debt destroyer balance, down to zero. They are so front end loaded on interest, it doesn't make it up in the end. They come out worse off than doing the plan I'm showing you guys. So here we are. So at 15 months, we're not touching the student loan. I'll cross it out, but it's not really going anywhere. We're just not going to pay it off, or pay it down. We're going after the mortgage now after doing all this consolidation. So at 15 months, debt destroyer $37,384. Total expenses $4,551. The income's up there, $5,831. That is it. All right, we'll make a little more room. So now, 9 months. What I say, it takes you about 9 months. So at 9 months, at 24 months, 9 months after the last step of 15 months, at 24 months, 10,000 chunk on the mortgage. I'm not gonna write, I'll just write MTG like I did over there. And this is just the first one. I'm not gonna show you every step because my mind will literally wander and I'll start making silly mistakes. You guys will get bored and fast forward and watch something else. This happens 13 times. That's the important part. Oh my goodness. You guys won't rat on me. Jen actually watches my videos. I'm always supposed to start with what we're trying to help them with. Oh, the last video I forgot. Someday I'll remember. So traditional, making payments, what the banks love you guys do. They love people that steadfastly, studiously make their monthly payments, right? So the traditional is 29 years for the last one, right? So obviously these get paid off during that. Then the mortgage. This is, let's say, worst case scenario. We're not ridiculous, and I'm not any dumber than average. So I know if a credit card was paid off and you had some extra money, you're probably going to pay your other ones down faster. That's all hypothetical. Factual is if you just made these payments until they're paid off, you get to the mortgage after 29 years, total interest of $253,469 in 29 years. This is what we're helping them with. That's interest only. That's the total duration. So that's what we're going to beat. Well, we know we can beat it. We beat it just by moving the money. We saved them money. But we want to save them the most money we can. We want to help them, set them up to get where they want to go financially. So we just keep doing this basically until 141 months. And yes, I know that's a lot. But you did the debt consolidation on day one. At 15 months, you paid a loan off. At 47 months, you could have been credit card debt free. But they're not stopping there. They need, we had the coaching call. They actually had a few questions. They had a good handle on this. They just wanted a little help with navigation. Where should they go? Which should come first? What should come second? We could actually get a lot of people like that. And I love those. Because it means you guys are, even if you're not watching our video, watching your videos. My fondest wish isn't necessarily to be rich off of doing this. My fondest wish is I'm 48 now. I'm 75 years old, and I turn on the news. I don't even do that now, but let's pretend I'll turn on the news. I turn on the news, and I see for the 25 plus 27 years, the interest, Citibank, Chase, so Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, their interest payments from customers has been steadily going down. If they say velocity banking, it wasn't me, it was you guys. I'm just, we do it. We do velocity banking. I'm just one person, but it would tickle me so much to go, hey, I was there. I don't know how much I contributed, but I was there, and you guys are here, which is even better because you guys are the ones that are going to do it. The community, you could say we're building a community. The community is everyone. Virtually everyone is part of this community because we're all carrying debt. Everyone. I keep seeing, record loan defaults. I just saw them pop that graph up on, and I didn't see it on the news. Well, I saw it on the news, but I saw the news online. I can't sit through the news. I got too much stuff to do. Let's get back to it. 141 months, mortgage free. So they paid the note off, but of course, still a balance on the debt destroyer, right? But their total expenses has a nice big drop, that $1,625. Get rid of that. Total expenses drop $1,625 to $2,926. Well, now that's a massive. Look at that. Look at that differential. It's humongous. And their final debt destroyer balance is again $38,003 was actually at 137 months. That was their final payment. But at 141 months, sorry, I'm so sorry. At 137 months was their final $10,000 chunk. 4 months later, at 141 months, they were able to bring the final chunk over. And I'm so sorry I didn't write it down here. If you could see my sheet, you could see I wrote them every chunk payment, where they were at. I just forgot the last one. It's irrelevant. Because at 141, they make their final payment, so the mortgage note is gone. Mortgage free. And it took them 4 months. Because, why? It only takes 4 months to get it zero because of that differential. Right? That $2,905 differential. I think I did my math, right? 29 is 58. Yep, 26, 5, 31. Yep. So 4 months later, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. 14 months later, Jesus. Oh my goodness, pardon me. I haven't done one of these videos in about 6 weeks. You get a little rusty. So sorry you guys got to bear with me shaking the rust off, but 14 months later, not 4. I wrote a 4, but then my total is 155, so obviously. 14 months later, debt-free. That was the important part. That whole build-up in my tomfoolery was that at 155 months, they're debt-free. The only debt they're still carrying is that $85 a month student loan. I gave you the explanation earlier. Not touching that. That's essentially free money. $300,000 loan for $85 a month, you don't touch that. That's less than the interest on it. And they're always being evaluated anyway, or annually being evaluated. So what did this take, right? We showed you what it'd take making payments, but doing velocity banking isn't free, right? It doesn't pay you. You still got interest. You're running money through an 8%. This couple is running money through an 8% HELOC, so there's still cost, right? Paying everything down. So let's look at what they got. So the pay down way we came up with for them. And they're just seeing this because these numbers were wrong because of a translation problem in Excel between an older and newer edition. Is our best guess. None of us are programmers. Well, I don't actually know what they do for a living. I know I'm not a programmer. It was actually him telling me, hey, I had this older version. He figures that's what probably happened. Right? So pay down's 12 years, 11 months. And what's the cost? The cost is $113,958. So you can already see the savings. And what do they save? $113,958. $37,677. And they save that in 12 years. So they're saving, on average, over $10,000 a year in interest. I want to double check. I'm thinking I wrote sorry about that. I got my back to you guys, but I just want to double check that because I might have written the number in the wrong spot. 677. Yeah, it's off 2,000. Yeah, and it was because I realized there was a number I didn't add in. I added it in, and I didn't reflect it. So I will correct that right now. Minus 113,958 is 139,511. All right, I told you if I make mistakes, I try to do all my math and my solutions to where if I make a mistake, my mistake is telling you you didn't save as much interest as you could have saved. I don't want my surprise to be, Dan, you said I'd save 139. I saved 39. Where'd that $100,000 go? No, it's going to be this. Oh, hey, I didn't add in a full interest subtraction, right? I didn't subtract it. I added it in. Not adding it in shows you less savings. So my mistake, once I correct it, is better news for you than worse off. Doing a poor job explaining that. I've never really thought through how to explain it. It's just something I do. Something I figured out how to do when I'm doing calculations for someone else to make my errors in their favor. But that's a heck of a savings. I know it's hard to get excited about saving money. It's easy to get excited about buying something because it's instantaneous. You got what you wanted. That is amazing. That's why we do velocity banking. I crunch the numbers for ourselves, how much we're saving. It's unbelievable. You just have to trust that the effort you put into this, believe me, all the effort is in the beginning. Get yourself organized. Get yourself a spreadsheet. Know where every dollar's moving in and out. Plus, in the future, don't forget, hey, I got property tax. If you're not saving for that every week, or paycheck or monthly, however you do it, you got to go, well, hey, I know I got this $600 payment coming, spring, summer, or spring, winter, right? Summer, winter taxes. Sorry. Mine are part of my mortgage, like many people, like many people. I can't remember when the actual payments come out. I haven't looked at the amortization for our mortgage in a while. But this couple, I hope you guys watch this. I'm sure you'll watch this. This is your video. That's how much you're going to save. It's different than the other. The reason it's different, obviously, it's the income expenses. If we added $1,000 to each one of these, you'd actually save more. I'm trying to work on a graph that's extremely complicated so people can just plug in their numbers and get an idea. Hey, if I try velocity banking, how much can I look at saving? It's so complex, I'm still trying to basically create my own outline of how to build it. Because the bigger numbers, you'll save more because you drop that average daily balance more. So part of it isn't just, hey, because originally numbers, the Excel had was 6,933 and 6,700. So they're positive 233. Well, that's a big difference from, minus, what is it? 2 and 69, $71. What is it? $270 some difference. But the big thing is the big number. It's the higher number, the income coming in that drops your everyday balance that sees greater savings. Because the original plan, it's right here. With those other numbers, just to give you guys a point of reference, was they'd have saved $174,000, and they'd have been done a little sooner. They'd have been done in about 10 years. So 2 years faster, obviously, 35,000-ish, plus change more. But this is still excellent. This really is excellent savings. Yeah, saving more than 50%. I'm happy I was able to do it for them. I'm happy they're going to save that. And I hope I illustrated not just the benefits of velocity banking, a little bit of the process, how to do velocity banking on your own, especially obviously with a line of credit, like a HELOC, PLOC, or business line of credit. A lot of people aren't familiar with BLOCs. That's why we say it. Always align Never a loan. Don't lock your money into that loan. No matter how much money you put in it, until it's paid off, there's nothing you can take out. We never preach, well, hey, just get another high interest credit card. That's how you get yourself out of debt. No, what do you have that you can use, and how can you utilize what you have to get yourself out of debt and save on interest along, not along the way, but every step of the way, saving on interest. I'm Dan with Pay Down Debt Solutions. I don't sign off without saying it. Always aligned, never alone. Thank you so much for watching.